Hey everybody, it is time to go through this entire depth sensor diffusion component because it's released. It's also time for Minneapolis, where I live, to go through fresh hell. I was recording this yesterday, right after my sister texted me. A woman was likely murdered in South Minneapolis. I tried to record this before actually looking at the news, and I did a good job. But then I went to look at it, and after 8 minutes, my hard drive was full. So we got to redo this again. Yeah. And I look into it, and it was a block from where I lived for like 4 or 5 years, like 6 blocks down the street from George Floyd, where at that time, I was only 10 blocks away from there. Things have been hard ever since, and bear with me. That's all I'm asking. Let's get into this thing. This is a Tox file. Drag it in, bam. Here's the whole network. Most important, first thing you have to do is bring in your own StreamDiffusionTD. Get that from DotSimulate's Patreon, if you don't already have it. And then you need an API key from DayDream to be able to run this on the cloud. And then you'll replace these inputs and outputs. Yeah, you can't run this through here into there. You have to actually have your switch sync go in here. Okay. And then I've got all the settings that you need to match. And some of these are references for the project. So SDXL Turbo. And then you'll just copy and paste settings or match them. These ones are references in the whole project that are important. So copy, paste the prompt. Some of them you'll have to check this little box. Oh. Okay, so yeah. Little blue box to put these in as references. And then there's a second set that you don't have to copy, you just need to match them. So the control net, let's see here, using the tile preprocessor feedback. So select tile feedback, and I've got 0.25 and 0.25. Right there. You can adjust those how you want. Don't matter. I'm not using IP adapter, but that works. It looks cool, but we're skipping that for now. On the install, put your API key there. Let's see if this works. IP adapter skipped. Kind of tells you how it's going up here. I just have a new thing that kind of waits to update these settings because the audio will step through some of this and keep it moving and randomized. Okay, it says it's running, but the status is also not streaming. What's going on here? Okay, getting less frames per second than usual. Okay, so let's go here. So the one thing is like you've got your depth cloud, but the stream diffusion is coming in later than that. So, okay, I'm gonna unplug this for a second. This is kind of driven by the low frequency kick. So if you don't have anything plugged in, it's just gonna use the default song. And I had this ambient thing going. So, I mean, when it's this abstract, you can't really, is it using the input image? Yeah, you can't run this through here into there. You have to actually have your switch sync go in here. Okay, back on track. So You turn the sync test on and you can kind of see how well this basically represents the depth cloud, and we need to match it with what's coming out of the StreamDiffusion component. We'll just eyeball it, but yeah, it looks about right. Okay, and then, so when you load this in, it'll show the demo project, and real versus AI is just like your live camera versus the StreamDiffusion or whatever. So I'll take the demo off, and now this should be pretty well lined up. The other buttons you've got is turning these audio-reactive 3D distortions on and off. And pretty much everything else is in the menu. This represents what's being fed into the StreamDiffusion, and you can see that, you know, I've just got some simple edge and compositing stuff. Definitely encourage you to play around with that, but you can kind of blend through your input images here. I think we need a different song. Okay, so for the audio reactiveness, you've got your basic built-in thing. So you'll have to adjust that. I've got some automatic triggers coming out. They just trigger in relation to the music. There's not really much settings, but it needs a little more work and fine-tuning. But that'd be the kind of thing you plug different stuff in and it'll just give you 3 triggers based on low, mid, high. Anyways, the way this is set up, by default, like the lows or the kick is going to be what progresses through this, although we're using all the triggers in different places. Let's go through the menu. So this is your StreamDiffusion resolution, and the depth sensor and the RGB, it's like all gets kind of compressed to that in uniform. That way the 3D instancing just works. And I would say you can run this at lower resolutions, but it's only going to look worse and worse than this already does. And then your 3D render resolution is what the 3D scene is. So just your render top resolution, set it from here. Camera sequence to controller blend. My favorite part of making this was being able to explore in 3D with the controller. I'll show you the settings in here. There's not too much to know there. That is at the very end of this chain. Here's the controller, D-pad left and right, changes how intense. You can see all the instructions there. If you hold the X button, it does kind of a fine tune of it. B resets. Up and down D-pad is your zoom, adjusting the field of view. And then you have left, right, forward, back on the left stick, look around with the right, bumpers up and down. And then, okay, while I'm in there, your other camera settings is you can kind of chain together a bunch of perspectives and then blend between them. And that is this slider here. So at 0, it's going to be using the audio to go through all your sequence of cameras. And in the middle, you can actually still control it, but it's also blending between all of those blended cameras. So that's kind of fun. We'll just do a little bit of the pre-programmed and a little bit of controller. For the sequence of cameras, you can control how much speed goes constantly into it. With none, it is not a factor. Otherwise, the audio is going into it, and this camera sequence speed has, I should rename that. This is the amount of audio influence. So if that's down, there's no audio. There's also a way you can just bypass it with this. You'll see no constant, and the audio bypass, it's just going to stand still. So we'll give it a little bit. For the prompting, there's a table in here. put all your prompts there. You can add and delete rows and shouldn't break anything. So it's set to auto, using triggers to step through it. You can randomize the order of them here. Without it, it's going to go from one to the next, 0 to whatever. So its default is auto. If you turn this on, you'll see this prompt select. And you can actually just pick them and it will hold it. I'll add something where it actually tells you what the prompt is, but you should be able to see it. I'll turn that off. It's using a 3D instancing of the Kinect's depth cloud, so you can see right now we've got rectangles and change the shape size there, and you can change it to a circle. You can put whatever you want in here, but circle, it'll be triangles at the lowest and turn into smoother circles at higher values. And you can also do boxes if you want to have a little bit more of a 3D inside of the 3D. But that will be more computationally expensive. Then for the 3D distortions, 0 to 1 on the scale of those displacements. Even at low values, you'll still see some pretty big ripples come through because it's all randomized, but that's just a thing up to your taste. Skip triggers to evolve prompt. I guess I should go over. That is all in this audio to image progression. It's really just counting and stepping through sequence of counts one at a time, advancing your steps, changing the random speed, changing the prompt, and then reducing the steps to the lowest amount, change the prompt over the course of like 8 triggers. What this skip X triggers to evolve prompt, if I have that at 0, every time it triggers, it's going to step through that. At 1, it'll skip 1, or it'll trigger, then the next time it'll be like, nope. And then the next time, then it advances. So if you have like a lot of rapid triggers, but you don't want it to change rapidly, you can increase this, and then the progression will happen slower. So RGB sensor between prompt changes, that means like as it gets through the end, it will eventually like toggle on the RGB camera as the instancing color data, and you'll see, so it's just like every once in a while, then you get the real image coming back in like that. And then these are just controls for the input image. The rest of that is just quick access to some level controls and stuff. Desaturate, saturate, all that fun stuff. And so that's all the controls built in. Otherwise, I've got notes all over the place for how this works, where you are in the signal flow. Like this is the background for the box that's the environment in. You know, I threw this together, something old that I gave away for free and tweaked it a little bit, has some audio-reactive stuff. That'd be a place to easily kind of make this your own. We're using a Fong. There's a couple lights. I thought about animating those and doing some fun stuff. Could be cool. But yeah, that's essentially what you need to know right off the bat. A little bit of setup, rundown of the controls. I'm sure there's a million things I'm forgetting. Yeah, hopefully this works. Hopefully you have fun. I've only tested it with a Kinect V2 for Windows and my generic Xbox controller. Without those things, you can still load this up and play around with the demo scene and the cameras. And if you have the StreamDiffusion, you can put that in there and make new images on this frozen still shot of depth information. But to do the real environmental change, you'll have to have some kind of depth sensor. It'd be cool to figure out if other sensors play nice with this. The nice thing about the Kinect, from what I've figured out, and I lost like a bunch of time trying to figure out how to align this when the color image has this camera remap, which literally just does what I was trying to manually do and could never get perfect. I don't know if there is a way to get perfect with just like transformation, stretching, reframing. Get it close, but somewhere it always looks bad. So thank you for having that factored in, fixing what I couldn't. But and if you need to adjust the point cloud at all, you can do it from the point transform or the geometry. Here you can see what the camera's seeing. If you want to throw away all that distant information, there's this shader, and you can just reduce this number. If you want to clamp what it sees in the foreground, you can increase this one. I don't have any built-in controls for that. You'll see some of my notes to self in here. Yeah, instructions around the camera blending. So I tried to make it as navigated, make it so that you can figure this out just by exploring around. But this is the less overwhelming version of this project. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you do anything cool with this. I'll update you if there's anything cool. Some context around this project is I was invited into this DayDream hackathon competitive little exercise over the last couple of weeks to make something new using this DayDream cloud computing offloaded GPU, which is like, I've had no reason to think about StreamDiffusion because I was kind of like, well, I don't know what to do with it. That's not just kind of novel. So like what this opens up is like, I regain some interest when this can be part of something more complex, and there'd be no way to do this on one computer because just the image generation, it can run on a gaming GPU, but it's going to be working too hard to let you do 3D scenes like this and all the audio reactivity. And so yeah, it's like a fun little exercise on the frontier of what's possible. You can usually sign me up for that. But the other side is like, there's some money on the line, and I only got 2 part-time jobs right now. It would be nice to have a chunk of change come in for doing my creative thing. So if you're interested in this, check it out. If you end up on DayDream's website, and especially if you made a profile, check out my project, give it a star or a like, give it an emoji and a comment, and that would be one of the metrics that help put me as a finalist. And if that's the case, I'll be presenting this more officially next week. Fingers crossed. Thanks, everyone.